Still, committee members in the room, I appreciate we are all very spread out today in what is quite an unusual setup. So if you do want to speak, do make sure you raise your hand quite high, and Kathy and I will do our best to spot you. But as I said, it might not be immediate, but please do leave your hand up, as it's a bit of an unusual formation today. So a couple of minutes and then we'll get going. Members, we'll get started now. Dan, if you could take us live. We are live. Okay. Members, good morning and welcome to this meeting of Cambridgeshire County Council's Planning Committee. I'd like to begin by welcoming everyone who's joined us in the room and who's also watching the stream virtually. My name is Councillor Henry Batchelor and I'm the chair of this committee. I'm going to start with a few housekeeping announcements and then we'll move into the business on the agenda. So I would like to just remind everyone that the council supports the principle of transparency and encourages filming, recording and taking photographs at its meetings that are open to the public. Members are advised that this meeting may therefore be filmed, recorded or photographed. In order to speak, you'd need to raise your hand. You will then be added to my list of speakers by Councillor Ray, sitting on my left. Members, as I said at the start, you could raise your hand nice and high, as I may not be able to see everyone at the first glance, so please do keep your hand raised. Can I also ask members to turn their mobile phones to silent or vibrate while the meeting's taking place? There is no fire alarm test scheduled for today, so if it sounds, then please leave by the nearest marked fire exit and assemble in the car park. Toilets are available on the ground floor and refreshments are available outside of the venue. So members, we'll move to start the agenda then, and we'll start with item number 1, which is apologies for absence. Please, Mr. Dan Snowden.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Bradnam and Councillor Hathorn is substituting.
Thank you very much. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Members, does anyone have any declarations they need to raise at this stage? Councillor Kindersley, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I declare an interest in item number 6, as I am a trustee of the Cam Academy Trust, and there is an item at item 8 in relation to Camborne Village College.
Okay, that's been noted. Thank you very much. Any further declarations, members? No. Well, if any members do become aware of any as the meeting goes on, do just say. Okay, we move on to item 3, the minutes from the previous meeting, which was the 29th of July 2021. Those are on pages 3 to 18 of our agendas. Members, does any members wish to raise any points of accuracy or any omissions at all with the minutes? Obviously, just the members that were present at the meeting. I don't see any hands, so we'll take those as read and I'll sign those as a correct record at the end. Okay, so we move into the substantive business on the agenda, which is item 4, and that begins on page 19 of our agendas, members, and it's a section 73 planning application to develop land without complying with condition 1 of a previously approved planning application, and the application is asking us to allow an extension of time to continue development for a further 5 years. The application is at Colne Fen Quarry on Chatteris Road in Somersham. The applicant is Mr. D. Newman, and the presenting officer is Miss Helen Vass, who is in the room with us. Helen, good morning.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning.
So, yeah, Helen, if you'd like to introduce the report, please, and then there may be some questions of clarity for you at the end.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Planning permission was granted in 2013 for an alternative restoration of Colne Fen Quarry involving the importation of excavated soils and inert waste for a period ending at the end of December 2019. So that was a period of about 6.5 years. The areas where the material would be brought into have by no means been completed. The development at the southern end, Ree Lake, that has almost been completed. The southeastern bit, the agricultural land, has been completed, and the border of Irrigation Lake has been completed. No development took place in Front Lake, the little spurs in that northwestern lake, but by far the largest part of the development would be in the Silt Pond, which is the central, roughly rectangular piece. An application was submitted in the middle of 2019 requesting planning permission for a further 5 years to complete the development. That was 5 years on top of the previous end date. So that would take us from December 2019 to the end of December 2024. As we're all aware, COVID hit at the beginning of 2020, and the applicant requested that instead of a fixed 5-year period ending in 2024, it be 5 years from the commencement of the development. The application was reported to Planning Committee in October of 2020, and it was put to members and who agreed the recommendation, which was a compromise, which was 5 years from the date of the meeting. So that was from the 1st of October 2020 to 1st of October 2025, which effectively gave the developer an extra 9 months and crucially a dry, hopefully, summer season. Planning Committee resolved to grant planning permission subject to the completion of a Section 106 agreement in which the applicant would undertake to create a bridleway which would become a public right of way. It partly involved the reinstatement of a previous route and partly involved upgrading footpaths, which would take the route to Chatteris Road. This would be a better public rights of way outcome than a previous obligation on the previous landowners, Hanson, which would have been a dead end for horse riders, and it would only have been permissive, which meant the landowner could close it at any time. Planning permission hasn't been issued owing to delays in progressing the Section 106 agreement. The council didn't receive the first draft from the applicant until 30th of September 2021, so almost a year after the Planning Committee, and the applicant solicitor is considering the amendments we put to them. So it's now nearly 16 months since Planning Committee agreed to approve the planning application. So the applicant has in effect lost that amount of time from his 5-year permission period. So early in December last year, the applicant asked that the 5-year period, instead of running from 1st of October 2020 to 1st of October 2025, it start at the date that the new planning permission became capable of being implemented. Councillor Criswell, on behalf of the local community, asked that the applicant consider a compromise shorter period, but I've not had a response to that suggestion. The local community is, I think, basically sort of fed up of traffic from quarries, and this is only one of a number that historically have used Chatteris Road, and are seeking some finality. I think they want a date at which they HGV traffic from Colne Fen will end, and so the recommendation I've put in the report is something of a compromise from what the applicant has requested, because I think it does leave a couple of I would say loopholes, a couple of opportunities for delay. There's the completion of the Section 106 agreement, which is not entirely within the council's control, and also the compliance with the planning conditions that are necessary for the development to start again in the main part, which is irrigation lake, which is ecological conditions, and also significantly the completion of a private haul road. If we could have the slide of the haul road. Next one. Next one, I think that's it. Yeah, yeah. The 2013 Planning Commission had an HGV routing agreement where the lorries would go to the A1050 and then down through Cole to join the A1123 at Erith, and they would then turn right and go through Bluntisham to head towards St Ives. Mick George Limited, who undertakes the activities at Colne Fen Quarry on behalf of the applicant and the landowner, received planning permission from Huntingdonshire District Council to create a private HGV access road, which is the route shown in red on that drawing, which would remove HGVs from Colne Fen, from the villages of Colne, Erith and Bluntisham, but it wouldn't remove them from Chatteris Road and the part of Somersham that is in Chatteris Road. So the way that the recommended conditions were framed is that the small part of the development at the south of the site, which amounts to about 2% of the remaining development, could take place using the old routing, and there was no need for any ecological work to take place before that recommences. By far the largest part of the development, about 98% of it in the silt pond, is tied to a routing agreement, which meant the HGVs must use the new haul road. We've been advised by Mick George Limited that the haul road is partially built and it will take 3 months to complete. So that's another area where delays to starting the main part of the development could arise. So I've recommended that a fallback position be put in place. So the worst case scenario would be 5 years starting on the 1st of May 2022, which would give them until the 1st of May 2027 to complete the development. If the permission is issued sooner and the works are, the necessary pre-development works are fulfilled, then that time period would start slightly sooner accordingly. I think members may be aware that we've recently, or last July, adopted the Minerals and Waste Local Plan. That document wasn't in place in October 2020, but it was referred to as an emerging document. In redrafting the recommended conditions, I've now have taken out the references to the former core strategy and replace them with the relevant references to the Minerals and Waste Local Plan. And I've been asked to draw your attention to the references to policy 17, which is entitled Design, but picks up landscape factors, and policy 24 deals with the use of soils. They weren't explicitly referred to in the October report, but are considered relevant to the reasons that we're recommending. It doesn't affect the consideration or the recommendation in any other way. I think nothing further. Thank you, Chairman.
Helen, thank you. Very full introduction then. Appreciate the detail you went into there. Members, an opportunity now for any questions of clarification for the officer on anything that she's just presented or is in the report. I think I saw Councillor Gardner first, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. You mentioned Councillor Criswell and Erith, I think, Parish Council came up with an alternative to your recommendation. Can you enlighten us as to what that was?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear, Councillor. They were asked me to ask the applicant to consider a shorter period of time. They didn't set a specific time. I think they were looking at probably 18 months or something shorter, which to be honest would bring us back to what was on the table in October 2020. So I did put forward that to the applicant, but didn't get a response.
Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's basically, I'm on page 25, 6.7, I mean, obviously, sort of, you can understand delays with what everybody's just been through and going through. But it is to the local communities, they clearly want to see an end date, which, is quite, and I'm assuming the applicant wants it finished, excuse me. It's basically, so I would like that sort of really clarified as to what the actual end date is, and that they can't come back then and say, no, we want to extend it again. I don't know if that's that, but also in 6.7, it says basically, second line down, time to complete the work, assuming no delays. Could that also add to a delay or add to an extension of the May 2027?
Helen?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Chairman. I mean, I think I've tried to identify the potential delays are in completing the legal agreement. Until that's done, we can't issue the planning permission. That's why I've put a fixed date in the recommended condition 1, rather than leaving it as 5 years from the date of issue or 5 years from the date of commencement. That either of those two scenarios would be open-ended, which is why I've recommended that there is a backstop of 1st of May 2027. I did replay the recording of the October 2020 meeting, and certainly one member did make the comment, we don't want to see this back again in 5 years' time. So I think we're probably doing now what we may have been asked to do in 4 or 5 years' time. I suppose we can't ensure that the material arises at a certain rate. It is in the hands of the developer and in the construction industry, and there would be no planning reason why the developer couldn't come in to us with another request for an extension of time. It does happen quite frequently on quarry restoration projects, but I suppose the void space is the same. The amount of material that needs to go into it is the same. There is a limit on the number of lorry movements, which would remain the same. But I think I do appreciate that the local community have had enough of it, and it's the finality they're looking for. It's moving those vehicle movements to different periods effectively. There would be no more of them in total. It's just they would go on for longer.
If I can just come back, it was just that I did see basically down in 1B, 1st of May 2027, but I just wanted to be absolutely crystal that was the stop date, and because of the assuming no delays, it couldn't be spread about, that's all.
Yeah, I think the question was around clarity around the 2027 date. Is that the final time that the period could begin from?
No, that would be when it would end. It would be
okay.
a 5-year period expiring from either the date of the permission or by 1st of May, whichever is the sooner. Okay. So if the permission, for some reason, we can't issue the permission until June, it would still be 5 years from the 1st of May 2027. I mean, it is something of an incentive for the developer to complete the 106 agreement and fulfill their ecological conditions and build the Hull Road, which are necessary for them to undertake by far the largest amount of the development.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. And Councillor Kindersley, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This committee has seen over the years endless applications to extend the close date for various sites, because it is within the rights of the applicant to put in a planning application to do so. So whilst I completely understand the concern, particularly from the local community in relation to the end date, we have to be pragmatic about what that end date is, which is us saying 2027 or sooner, but remembering that the applicant does have the right to apply to vary it. But that's not what I wanted to say, in fact, to begin with. The clarity that I seek is on the point raised by one of the individual representatives in relation to the fencing on the bridleway. The report refers to the fact that there is fencing installed in order to protect people using the bridleway, particularly from the live action, as it were. But the representation says the fencing may affect local ecology and poses a risk to horses. So I wonder if you could just clarify that for us.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is actually a photograph of the fencing that the landowner is putting in place. The the active part of the development would be on that side. That's a piece of woodland that they have cleared to enable a 4 metre, which is the minimum required for a bridleway, 4 metres width to be put in place. The land is fairly open, and historically there have been incursions from quad bikes and that sort of thing. So I think the landowner understandably wants to prevent people trespassing on the rest of the site. The public right of way will be the public right of way, but he doesn't want them straying into either an active landfill or his restored ponds.
Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Well, it does, but yes, I mean, it looks perfectly acceptable and safe. So I presume that the representative means there's no place for a badger to get underneath or through a gap or something.
They did raise concerns about horse riders. So I think, yes, I think the tow is to keep burrowing animals out, which the landowner doesn't want in his landfill site or his restored amenity lakes.
Okay. Thank you. Members, any further points of clarity for the officer before we move to public speakers? No, I don't see any. So we don't have any actual public speakers who are going to present to us today, but we do have Mr. John Goff, who is the Director of Planning for the applicant, who's with us today. He wasn't proposing to say anything specific, but he is on hand should members have any questions for him. So in the first instance, obviously he is here for the whole meeting, but do any members have any specific questions for the applicant at this stage? Councillor Connor, please.
Yes, thank you for attending that, Mr. Goff. We do need this haul road doing as soon as possible. We can't have this hanging about anymore, so you can get on with restoring this quarry, because I do see what the villagers are saying in Bluntisham and Soham especially, and they are absolutely fed up to the teeth. It looks like on this report that it's going on so long. So if we can, that's first thing for me. And I just think after Councillor Kindersley's spoken, there'll be a couple of other things I want to say, but it's imperative that we get this 106 sorted out and this haul road done. Thanks.
Mr. Goff, I don't know if you want to come back on that at all.
Yes, certainly. No, we fully appreciate the benefits of the haul road, because it takes vehicles out of Colne, Erith and Bluntisham, and it is a priority. We do, it is, as said in the presentation, it will take approximately 3 months to construct, and that includes a new access onto Colne Road on the eastern boundary of that haul road, and the agreement's already in place with the highways. It's a short form, so it's a short form agreement, so that's it's only a 4-week leading time to undertake those works actually on the highway. So it certainly is a priority for the project. As soon as we get the section 106 signed and we got the surety of that consent, works will commence immediately on the haul road.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, further questions for Mr. Goff at this stage? See, he is here for the debate as well, if any more do arise. No, okay. Well, members, on that note, then we don't have any further public speakers, so we will move into the debate now. So members, it'd be interesting to hear your particular thoughts on this one. And as I said, we do obviously have the officers and the applicant with us as well. So I think Councillor Kindersley, I saw you gesticulating.
Oh, thank you. I raised my hand. I didn't realize I was raising it in such a dramatic fashion. Chairman, I understand the reasons this has come back to Planning Committee, in that we considered it before, and this is good form to bring variations or extensions or whatever back. But it is very straightforward. The planning officer has explained very clearly why and what we are being asked to do. And to that end, I would like to propose that we accept the recommendation as set out in the report. I don't think there are any difficulties with it, and the point that Councillor Connor has just raised in relation to the haul road does in fact address, at least partly, the concerns raised by one of the parish councils involved, which is Erith. And you know, I accept that it is tiresome for the community, and they are facing a great deal of activity like this from a number of different sites. So I imagine Mr. Goff will go away saying the planning committee is very keen that this is all completed at least as soon as possible, but certainly by the date in the report of the 1st of May 2027. So that being the case, that is my proposal, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Connor, please.
Yeah, Councillor Kindersley stole my thunder there. The report is really, really simple. It just, as he's just said, it needs to be done and sorted, and it all needs to be done by the May 27, year 27. And I'm happy to second the proposal. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a proposal to move to the recommendation, which is to approve following the conditions outlined in the report. That has been seconded. So members, I think we should probably take a vote on that, if that's the right process. Sorry? Okay, well, members, we'll go to the vote then. So all those in favour of that recommendation that's just been put, please raise your hands if you agree. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is unanimous. And just for absolute completeness, anyone wishing to vote against that? And abstentions, none. So that application is approved. Members, thank you very much. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda, which is the enforcement report, beginning on page 73 of our agendas. And I believe this is being introduced by Deborah, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. The report before members gives an overview of the work of the Enforcement and Monitoring Team in County Planning, Minerals and Waste in the period the 1st of July 2021 to the 30th of November 2021. The end of November date takes into account the need for legal review and advanced publication of the report. These reports are usually presented to committee quarterly, provided that there are other agenda items to put before members. Section 2 of the report details the number of complaints the team has received, investigated and closed in the reporting period, and the status of those complaints that are still open and under investigation. The report also details the proactive monitoring of the planning permissions and conditions attached to the 40 mineral extraction and landfill sites that we visit a number of times each financial year, work which is chargeable. The team also inspects waste sites that do not fall under the chargeable monitoring regime, along with visits undertaken in connection with enforcement investigations, and the details of all of those visits are contained in paragraph 6.4 of the report. Either prior to or soon after these update reports are presented to members, emails are sent to each of the parish councils and local members in respect of the updates given to the enforcement investigations that are set out in sections 8 to 12 of the report, and local members are kept updated at key stages of ongoing investigations where a breach of planning control has been confirmed. There's no amendments to the report or updates since publication, and there's no recommendation in the report other than to note the contents, but I'm happy to answer any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. As mentioned, we've just been asked to note this, but as we're making great time, if there are any questions, I will allow if any members do have any. Councillor Kindersley, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's not a question. It is a comment. It's perhaps invidious to highlight officers and their efforts throughout the pandemic, but I would just like to say a thank you on my behalf, and I'm sure yours, Chairman, to our officers, particularly those who go on site, both planning and enforcement. And you will note from paragraph 6.4 that site visits continue. And I'm sure that it is quite difficult at the moment to do these in a COVID compliant fashion. So I very much commend the efforts of all involved.
Indeed, and I'm sure the committee also echoes those comments as well. So, thank you very much to the entire planning team. Members, I don't think there's any further questions on the enforcement report, so we say thank you to Deborah. And we will move on to the final item, which is item 6, which is the summary of decisions taken under delegated powers. There's no introduction to this report, but if members do have any particular comments they wish to make or any questions, now is the opportunity for that. I don't see any, so we will move on from that item, and that is all the business we have on the agenda today. Members, before we do finish, just to make you all aware, we do have quite a busy schedule over the next couple of months. Both February and March's committees are looking quite full with some quite slightly more complex applications, so please do keep the committee dates in February and March penciled into your diaries, because it's very likely we'll be needing both. Councillor Smith, please. Microphone, please.
Sorry. Will there be site visits for these ones coming up in February and March?
Some, not all, but we will be in touch about those, but some are being planned, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, I think that draws us to a conclusion. So thank you very much to officers for all their input into the agenda today, and members for your input also. With that, we draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.